and welcome to Cheekyricho Cooking's how to pickle or preserve mushrooms. We've got all these tiny little mushrooms here that we got at a fruit market. We've got a whole box full of them and we're using them up in all different ways. I've showed you how to dehydrate them. I'm going to show you how to steam them for the freezer, make mushroom dust, and of course to preserve them in a pickling solution. We've got some water here just onto the boil, to which we're going to add a liberal amount of salt. Once it's come to the boil, we're going to pop our mushrooms in, cook them because these are really quite small for a couple of minutes. They will float. As they start to become a bit waterlogged, they will sink. The salt will draw out the moisture in the mushrooms and then we'll have to drain them really well before we put them into our pickling solution. Okay, we're boiling away now. We just carefully lower these into our water. As they start to cook, timer set for 3 minutes. They will start to sink and become a bit waterlogged, and then of course we have to remove that water from the mushrooms. So just push them down, make sure they're all getting covered with the water. Okay, we just push them underneath the water and that keeps them totally submerged. Okay, you can see they're sort of sunk now. We've just turned it down a little bit. We're just going to scoop them out and put them into a colander to drain and do the next batch. They're essentially quite cooked now. They don't take very long. And we'll throw the balance in and set our timer again. Okay, our mushrooms are draining quite well. They're still very warm. We're going to put them onto a wire rack, cool them completely, and then squeeze any excess water out of them. You can see if you squeeze it, water comes out, and we're going to get rid of all that excess water because water is what's going to spoil the mushrooms in the pickling solution. Okay, for our pickling solution for our pickled mushrooms or our preserved mushrooms, we've got some pickling spice. Now they've got fennel seeds, coriander seeds, peppercorns, little bits of mace and little bits of chili in there, already made up. If you want to use your own pickling spice, by all means give it a try, but that's a very economical option. Into our vinegar we go with our salt, sugar, and a couple of little pieces of lemon rind that we've taken off the outside of a lemon but left the pith behind, and some bay leaves off Richo's bay leaf tree. He's a big fan of bay leaves. Now we're just going to heat this, and this is going to be poured over our jars which have been packed with the mushrooms. So just bring this to the boil and those spices will infuse into that vinegar and give it a lovely flavour. You could use any type of vinegar that you like. I tend to go for a light coloured vinegar because otherwise it'll make the mushrooms look too dark and they don't look very appealing in the jar. We'll just bring that to the boil and let it cool while we sterilise our jars. Our sterilised jars are out of the oven now. We're just going to pack them with our mushrooms. There they are there, quite hot. And we pack them with our cooled mushrooms and then pour over the top our pickling solution. Give it a good shake. Make sure that the bay leaves end up in there too. And then we're going to put them in a cool, dark place for about a month or so, at least 4 or 5 weeks until they have done their pickling process. They're packed in there now. And now we just carefully pour, oh that's hot, carefully pour our pickling solution over the top and leave a little bit of a gap because we're going to actually top that with some extra virgin olive oil. Now the reason that we do that is firstly it saves dressing it when you get it ready to eat, and secondly it totally excludes any air from our preserves. So just grab our bay leaves there, just poke them in the centre and they will continue to impart their delicious flavour. Lemon rind goes in and of course the pickling spice. It's hard to give you a measurement on the actual amount of vinegar you need. Better to have a little more than a little less. This is okay in salad dressings anyway. And we'll just pop our pickling spice in there. Wow, that is so hot. Pop our pickling spices in there as well. And once you give it a shake, they'll sink to the bottom. You've got peppercorns, mustard seeds, fennel seeds, coriander seeds. Okay, now a little dribble of extra virgin olive oil over the top. And pop our lid on. So hot. Goodness me. Give it a good shake to make sure those spices and things are all wet. And there you have it. Cheekyricho Cooking's pickled mushrooms.